Freunde, heute Abend bei uns als Gast im Rockpalast, Dire Straits.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. Well, yes, as you can see, we play in all the big pubs. This is one, in fact, that we started playing in pubs. Oh, shush, shush. Sweet surrender down on the quayside. Yeah, you remember we used to run and run. In the shadow of the cargoes and take it one time. We're counting all the numbers down to the waterline. Without a nigger missing on a dog-leaf stairway. French kisses in the darkened doorway. Fog on blowing out wild and cold. Policeman, he shines a light upon my shoulder. Yeah, right. And up comes a coaster fast and fun in the night. Over my shoulder, all you can see are firelights. No money in our jackets and our jeans, it's on. Your hands are cold, but your lips are warm. All right. See him on the jetty that they used to know. She can feel him in the places where the sailors go.
On first. Hey, Proto-Humanist. Thank you. Sorry about the mic. Just wanted to give you a very quick good evening. Hey, Road Chess Master. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, Brother Humanist, for joining us. Welcome to my Best Losses Monday. Let me just briefly adjust this camera a little bit. So, yeah, that's better. It's good to see you guys. Welcome to tonight's edition of my Best Losses on Monday. Tonight's time is... oh, thank you very much, Brother Humanist. It's my pleasure. Anyway, so just wanted to say today's edition of my Best Losses Monday is actually dedicated to my match against Aman Hambleton, a grandmaster that I played yesterday that I lost. Basically, I lost 10 games in a row, but I think... and strangely that this particular match, I felt that I'm the opposite of the way I felt after about the match against WGM Kiyu Zhao, for the simple reason that I felt I played actually quite well. I had plenty of chances, and it wasn't necessarily it was actually a very nice match. And, I was obviously happier with the result the week before because I managed to avoid being adopted twice, and here I got adopted, but in many ways this was not, my play was actually better. Anyway, just wanted to give a quick overview, and then we're gonna switch into these into very quick stream. I have selected basically 3 games from the match, the very first game, and then the game number 5, and the very last game. So in other words, there is a game from the very first game of the match, the very beginning of the match, then the middle game, and finally the very last game. In terms of preparation for the match, I have never really had any success playing against Aman. He's a strong grandmaster, and he actually plays very well in these matches against subs. And he's also a gentleman and a very good player, so it was actually a pleasure playing against him. However, I'm gonna start with the very first game. It was a Sicilian, and it was basically, and I'm gonna switch to analysis mode. It was basically Taimanov Sicilian after e6. I have an admission to make that, while I'm reasonably good in opening preparation, this is not one of my favorite variations of Sicilian. I would much rather play Yugoslav attack against... Hey, Iverson Chess, thank you for joining us. Good to see you too, my friend. I'm gonna show briefly 3 games that I played against Grandmaster Aman Hambleton yesterday. So this is the very first game, and it's Taimanov Sicilian, and this is this is all standard normal moves, and I have to admit that I am still struggling with the logic of how to fight in this QC7 edition of Taimanov, which computer calls Bastriko variation. Hey, Drunk Pyromaniac, thank you for joining us. It's always very good to see you. Thank you. It's good to see you here. Anyway, so I'm usually struggling in this variation, and this is one of those situations in which I understand the moves, but I'm not sure I understand completely the logic of the position. So, all of these are normal moves. Bishop e3 is usually not considered the best option here, but I actually don't mind playing it because in most variations of Sicilian, I prefer to castle long and hope for an attack. And I decided to stay and play with something that I was comfortable. This was the very first game of the match, and in subsequent game, which was also a Sicilian game, I played Marozzi Bind. Yes, Drunk Pyromaniac. They were at 5+2, which was, a reasonably slow blitz time control. Anyway, so this is, normal development. Oops, I managed to screw this up. My apologies, guys. Some of these fast mice have some disadvantage. So takes, queen c7, f4, standard normal development moves, a6, bishop e3, b5, and queen d2 is a standard preparation for long castle. Obviously, the threat here is that white at some point can play b4. And the interesting aspect of this position is that, and I'm going to turn analysis back, is that, black keeps this king side rather undeveloped, which is actually going to come into play later in the game. So bishop b7, castle long, and here is an interesting situation here. It might have been, Aman didn't play this game very precisely. And, queen c8 is actually a huge blunder. And huge blunder for the very simple reason that it allows something that I actually didn't play, which was to take... the best move is to take on the b5 here, which is actually a common threat. And then after takes, knight takes, and then here is the compelling motive in this position. The compelling motive here is that this pawn on d7 is actually being attacked, and the only thing, and it's a threat, it's a mating threat. So in other words, white absolutely has to, defend that pawn, because if queen were to go somewhere like queen b8, queen d7 is mate. So a queen really has exactly one move to make, and there is an option to play queen b4, but with any normal move, even queen d8, there is this particular strike, and then it's the best option for computer is to play bishop b4, and that's actually not very pleasant for for white. There is a knight d6 check and the whole sorts of ugly things coming their way. So the best option for black is actually to play something along the line of queen e7, and then, believe it or not, white has an option to claim a draw, because these are actually the best moves in this position. Bottom line, hey Golden Lion, thank you for joining us. Hey Kibikan, my friend, thank you for joining us. I'm showing 3 games from my match with Aman yesterday. So basically, it would have been, one position for white literally after the very first game after 10. Worried about the recent lawsuit against Twitch. Which one? Twitch actually had multiple lawsuits. Worried about it. If you're worried about the music, it's actually under public. This is supposedly in the public domain. So, but if you're, hey Archangel 75 AR, but I beat GM Studer. If there is another lawsuit that I'm not familiar with, please do share. I'm not familiar any of the lawsuits that apart from that one. Anyway, all right. So going back to the position, Hey, thank you, Archangel75 AR. Greetings for Argentina. How are you doing, my friend? I've never been to Argentina. Hope to go there soon, very soon. So anyway, to go back to the game, in other words, I had an opportunity to see this, to basically, you know, win the game on the very first try, or at least, you know, draw. Oh, thank you, IPGM Studio. That's very kind of you. But my days of, you know, doing that are, I think, past me. But thank you again. Anyway, so hey, Major Tommaso, thank you. Greetings from Bulgaria, Bratko. Nice to see you. Thank you. As most of you probably know, I grew up in Serbia. I live in New York these days for the past 25 years, in fact. But yes, Kitty, it's good to see you. Basically, knight b5, and that's what we were showing. Knight b5, knight b5, knight b5 was basically winning. Funny thing is, and this is sadly the problem, and why I basically, you know, I'm showing you this game and why I ended up being adopted. I did not see, I actually considered the take, but I think, and this is where my library of chess motifs fails me, I wasn't aware, you know, I didn't see that queen d7 was mate as I was playing it. Call it nerves, call it first game syndrome, call it whatever way you want. Though I was much more comfortable in this match than in a match against Chiu, where I was actually quite nervous. But, you know, this is a one position by white. It's 470, and, you know, bishop b6, and then where is this queen going, and opportunity to draw very quickly. Anyway, that stayed aside. I basically missed it. Instead, I played e5, which computer judges as a missed win. And then, you know, knight d4, bishop takes the d4, knight d7 is another inaccuracy by Aman. I think it was, you know, to Aman's credit, he was playing this game on only 4 hours of rest. And he was streaming fairly late before the night before, and he was, you know, he got up very early, which I think is like 10 a.m. to play this match against me. So anyway, so this on the other opportunity to grab on b5 I actually saw, and, you know, I took on b5, and then after knight d5 I made, you know, the first in series of blunders that will ultimately cost me this game. The best move is basically to take on d5, takes on d5, or even taking with a bishop is actually better, and then, you know, maintain this threat against the d7 pawn. But I'm afraid I suffered, you know, and this is actually a very comfortable position for white. It's probably not directly winning, but it was definitely a nice position, and nicer than the one that ended up. Mind you, even in the position that in the game, hey Frappuccino, it's good to see you, my friend. Even in the position in the game, after knight d5, I played bishop d3, which kind of loses the bulk of its advantage. But even here, and this is a slightly annoying pin, I was under the impression, okay, I'm a pawn up. You know, I actually have a better position. The pieces are under, black still needs to castle. So I should, you know, I should be at least be drawing this position, nothing else. Unfortunately, as you can say, I started proceeding much too timidly. I was basically moved to king b1 so I can take on d5, so that bishop takes d2 is not with a check. But of course, Aman wasn't going to let me do it, and he actually had a better version of it, which is queen a5, bishop takes d3, bishop takes c3, queen takes on c3. And after this, I lose a pawn, and I have to make an admission. I have underestimated the difficulties that white faces in this particular position. Hey Reagan0001, it's very good to see you. Thank you for joining us. I basically, misunderestimated this position. I thought it was better for white than it really is. And the reason it's actually not very good for white is that first, this king here is not in a very good spot, and in many ways it's it's threatened. And second, once black manages to move his king to e7 and put the rook on c8, there are immediate threats to the white king. And I made a strategically bad decision to basically sacrifice this pawn. Hey Dirkje, it's good to see you, my friend. Thank you Dirkje. Thank you for joining us. I'm showing a couple of games from my match against Aman Hambleton yesterday. So I basically decided that I'm going to mobilize and try to fight this. I also was under the impression that, I might be able to play rook g1 if there is a capture on g2, but then only after I saw that, I realized that, after takes on g2, I really don't have time to really play rook g1 because, black has this nice little tactic, and if I take on g7, this kind of threatens the rook, and all of a sudden rook is basically trapped. Unfortunately, I saw this only after I made rook e1 move, so that didn't really help me. So, bishop e4, obviously another inaccuracy, and rook e4, and here I'm already in a slightly uncomfortable position. And one thing that I learned in this match is that I generally considered endgames to, be one of my advantages, or let's put it this way, strength of my game. That really doesn't mean that when I'm playing a grandmaster, my endgame technique has very serious flaws. That's also going to show in the game number 5 that you guys will see a little bit later. Anyway, so after rook b8, king a1 is actually not good. a5, rook b1, I'm already in a pretty bad position here, and I'm not gonna really commentate this very much. I was kind of hoping to get this a4 pawn and gather some counterplay, but unfortunately it really wasn't there. And after this, obviously it was time to resign. So to just give you guys a little bit of overview of this, opening was perfectly fine, and I missed this motive of strike on d7. I should have played take on b5, and it would have been a very nice win, a very quick win or a draw in the very first game of the adoption match. Aman actually gave me another chance, and I actually took it, but of course this is way too passive a move. I switched into let me defend the pawn I have acquired. Bishop a4, if you look at this variation, would have been a much better game. And the lesson learned here is very simple. One, if you have a winning attack, if you're playing somebody as strong as Aman, getting into what you think is a better endgame is actually not a good strategy. And the rest was basically, oops, I'm sorry, is not, I don't even know where we went here, but it was a missed opportunity to achieved basically the same result I achieved in the Chiyu match, which was basically defeat adoption of the very first game. Anyway, so that was game 1. In game 2, I'm not going to show you games 2, 3, and 4 for the simple reason that then in game 4, game 3, we played a Sicilian again. I switched to Marazzi bind, and I ended up getting outplayed in the middle game. It wasn't a very instructive game. I didn't play very well. I'm going to show you when we show game 10, I'm going to show you, because in every game as black I played King's Indian defense, and although from a competitive standpoint it wasn't a very good result, it was actually quite instructive and interesting from a standpoint of my opening preparation. So we're going to fast forward through to game 5, which I consider to be my very best game in the match, because here in the game number 1 I missed one move opportunity, and in this game, as you will see, I actually managed to build up over a period of time a winning attack, and then of course managed to mess it up. But let me show you. So this is French defense, Vinaver variation. I play French exchange against Vinaver as a matter of course. Hey, Smash Time Tools, thank you for joining us. And especially, against the Grandmaster, I'll play French exchange against Vinaver anytime. Bishop d3, all of these are basically book moves, and none of this is a particular computer is over exaggerating this position for black. This is a completely nice and equal position. And bishop g6, knight e2, which is actually a standard move in this particular position. And after bishop d6, knight f4, I think not to question a grandmaster's moves, but I think this castling long was a little bit optimistic, because frankly, as you will see, I think white is better prepared to attack. I think what Aman was hoping to get through is to exchange all minor pieces, and I think he actually mentioned as he was commentating as he was playing on the Bra channel. He was kind of hoping that he will be able to exchange all the minor pieces and then basically outplay in heavy pieces endgame, which was actually a perfectly logical strategy. Anyway, I played c3, which computer considers inaccuracy. I disagree with that. And hey, chess lover, hey, welcome to the stream. I'm showing games from my match with Aman, because c3 is actually not a prophylactic move. The plan here is to prepare b4 and a4, which is actually going to be played in this game. So after some exchanges, and b4 was played, Aman took on f4, bishop f4, takes on d3, queen d3, and I think the assessment here was that there is not enough firepower for white to kind of conduct an attack in this position. And I think that as a result of all those exchanges, it simplified the position and ended up with this fairly strong bishop that's actually kind of hitting the black king where it hurts. And, this knight is kind of, it's a nice knight, but it really needs several jumps to get anywhere. And, computer is saying plus 0.94. I think that's an exaggeration. It's nowhere near that good, but I popped this into Lila, and Lila is saying something about 0 plus 0.60, which I think is probably accurate. Anyway, so we are playing, and for the record, after 16 moves, I'll take this position against Aman any day of the week, which is, so A4, best move, knight E7, which is a good move, B5, it's, the white plan is simple, push the pawns as quickly as you possibly can, and, open this position up and use your heavy pieces and this fairly strong bishop to mate the black king as quickly as you can. So rook e8 is the best computer move. Queen g4 was an alternative, it's fine. a5, g5, and here I had a decision to make, and I think in retrospect I made the wrong decision here. The two moves for bishop are basically to go to e5 or to go to g3. G3 allows black to gain a tempo by playing h4 and then h5 and then h4, which is why I didn't play it, because h5 would immediately necessitate this, and I really also wanted to block this rook. But on the other hand, it allowed this rather passive knight to get exchange after knight g6 for this rather nice bishop. So in retrospect, I know if you look at the computer evaluation here, it's between bishop g3 and bishop e5. I would have probably preferred that I retreated to g3, But anyway, this is a position in which, if you haven't noticed, the white's advantage is slowly climbing. And, I'll take it. What was played is bishop e5. Inaccuracy, agreed. Bishop g3. I don't think this is that much of a difference, but there is a difference. Queen e6, rook b1, which, computer likes f4. I was under the impression then and there that this attack is where the stuff is being decided. Alright, knight g6, best move. Obviously I'm not counting pawn, I'm pushing b6. And, the thing here is that what computer considers inaccuracy in a knight e5, which is what was ended up with playing, I think, it's pretty hard for, black to play these positions because, queen d4, king c7. At some point I felt at the time that this open position of the black king will be to white's advantage. That wasn't what happened in the game. Hey, Fertila Magica, thank you for the follow, that's very greatly appreciated. What was played was, hold on, let me see, so instead of b6, instead of 95, Aman took on b6, it was takes again, and then a6, which is actually not a very good move. In other words, that move, and I'm, if you look here, I didn't even really think about it. This is 207. In 2 seconds, I said, you know what, I'm taking this bishop on, and if you look closer, this is actually, it wasn't played, but this is, this is a rather nice mate. Of course, Aman wasn't going to let that happen. So instead of taking on rook after rook a6, he took the bishop, which is actually the best move, takes on e5, and queen d7, running away as fast as one can do it. And this is where, rook a7 is the best move. Rook b8 is actually, rook c6 is the better move according to the computer, and I agree. And this is, the rook a7 is also the last quote-unquote best move that I played in this position. You know, computer likes several moves in this position. Hey, Joel Rubs, it's very good to see you. Thank you for joining us. You know, I here was, and I have to admit, this is where I started to be a little bit, I don't want to say nervous, but started to think, wow, I am actually winning this game. And frankly, this is the first time I felt that way, because that knight takes on b5 thing in game one I didn't see. So I was like, okay, so what's the best way for me to convert the advantage here? And you know, I'm not necessarily criticizing myself for not playing computer best move, which is rook e1, but I should and could have played rook a5, and rook at a5 would have been a very easy win, because you know, hey, I beat GM Studer. Just time discrepancy. Let's be very frank. For Grandmaster Aman, Hambleton, 4 minutes is an eternity. He can play 300 moves in 4 seconds. You know, I'm obviously have a huge advantage of time, but 4 seconds with a 2-second increment. I think a man can play, you know, 100 games with just 4 seconds on the clock, and you know, he's just very fast. Yes, rook a5 was an easily winning move, and you know, that's a move that I should have found. I don't think that h4 makes sense. Even something along the lines of, you know, queen b5 is, you know, it's just a blunder. Okay, you know, it was c4, and which is what they played, ended up transposing into an endgame that all the advantages of Aman's technique came into play, and that's how I ended up actually losing this game. You know, and for the record, honestly, Aman probably could have played, you know, I've seen Aman play 40 moves in 4 seconds, you know, but obviously, you know, 4 seconds without the 2-second increment is very different than 4 seconds with it. So, anyway. All right, so Aman took, I took, and I shouldn't have taken. I should have played g3, so I don't need to exchange queens. And with relief, which is he said then and there, Aman forced a queen exchange. And here I have, you know, I have a position that I'm a pawn up, which should be objectively drawn, but you know, it's and again, this happened to me for the second time in this match. I have a endgame that's marginally better or equal, that I underestimate the difficulties. You know, this pawn is not immediately dead, but it's too advanced. This pawn is a weakness, and obviously, you know, after rook e5, I had to play. I don't know what f3 was all about. I think I was worried about my back rank or something. You know, this motive with rook a5 was there throughout, and that should have been played, if for nothing else, because that prevents the black king from coming to attack the b6 pawn. And you know, rook d5. I shouldn't have exchanged the rook. Rook a5, and this is actually, I looked this on the board, and this actually should still be savable for white with any kind of decent play, but not for the first time in my chess career, not for the last time, I didn't make a proper transition from playing to win the game to playing to draw the game. And I made you know, and the rest I'll spare you the details. I made a bunch of inaccuracies and I ended up kind of losing this, which was quite upsetting. And you know, I even found some, you know, queen d2 is actually not the best move, and I was almost thought for a second I would be able to save this. But you know, the best move here evaded me, which was basically to play you know, immediate f4, and that would have some practical things. But bottom line, hey Zyme, hey, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining us. I'm showing games from my match with Grandmaster Aman Hambleton yesterday. So I have, you know, so I've lost this endgame. Basically, my endgame technique wasn't there when I needed it. And yeah, as long as the queen is, you know, not around, unfortunately, the king was too, you know, they were too close to the beginning, to right here. And this pawn was of g5, which means creating two connected pawns was there. Instead of, I ended up having, you know, two disconnected pawns, and I'll show you to the bitter end, and this was not savable. And, you know, this was mate, and that was the end of the game. Yes, Fantasy Magic, that's exactly right. So, I'm not very unhappy about my, you know, I am actually, this is my best game in this match. Yes, thanks Drunk Pyro. Yeah, I got it. Thank you. You know, I think until about my handling of the position until this blunder, you know, c4 is something I blame myself for. I should have, you know, rook a5 was perfectly natural move that I should have found, and that would have given me all opportunities to play for the win, especially since, you know, the natural move, which would be something along the side of king c6. This is a very beautiful, nice mate. And, you know, I probably, and if I look at the time, I spent only 3 seconds. I really wish I spent 13 on 30 and that I made a decision to play rook a5, because with the queens, when the queens left the board, my attack is over and the most of the white's advantage evaporated. So, you know, but the preparation of the attack, starting here with the c3 after the exchanges and then pushing of the pawns, and, you know, I'm not faulting myself. Hey Lali, it's good to see you. Thank you. I know it's very late for you. I'm showing the analysis of my game with Aman yesterday. We're now showing the game 5. And, you know, let me put it this way. I don't want to hear make any statements about my advance in chess strength, because that's not really accurate or anything. But yeah, passive heavy pieces are not very useful. That's exactly right. Oh, thanks Lali, good to hear. I'm very happy that you're beating I have seen you beat 2400 to 2500 title guys, so it's always good to see you. I'm not I don't think I'll ever get there, but so good luck. You know, and here what I'm very proud is that, you know, a year ago, hey Twitch, let's go, hey, how are you going? This is a fellow streamer, and it's very good to see you. Let's give her a quick shout out. Twitch, let's go. Yeah, and I think, and did I manage to? No, let's see. What am I missing here? Sorry. Let's see. Let's give you a shout out. Anyway, so I'm showing. Oh, thanks. I guess my shout out command doesn't work tonight. Oh, all right. That's, I don't know, maybe Mubot decided to act out on me or went on strike. Ah, thank you. Thank you, Lali. That's very greatly appreciated. Anyway, so she's a fellow streamer and she's one of the members of the mid-teens chess community with Justin and Agent GL and Kimi Liu and Hans. So please give her a shout out and give her a follow. I enjoyed her streams a lot. Anyway, in 2020, I think in 2018 or 2017, I wouldn't have made the Rook A6 move. In mid 2020, that was instantaneous move in a couple of seconds. So I guess that constitutes some sort of a progress. And you know, it's to the extent that one can be happy with those losing 10 games in a row. I'm actually pretty happy with my play in this match. You know, this is a very good. So anyway, yeah. Anyway, so you know, and I hope there will be a time when the end games of this kind, I will be able to actually play better. Hey Everettville, it's very good to see you. And you know, this is a needlessly messed up end game, but it was, you know, I don't. It's a matter of technique, and technique is something that one can presumably learn or gather with experience. So these are two of my best games. Both of those games were with white. I generally play better with white than with black. But the last game of this, and this is going to be a shorter stream than usual, because is the very last game of the match. And there is one, you know, further admission I want to make. I kind of lost 3 games after this rather quickly, for the very simple reason that I was still upset about the loss about the game 5, and that's something I need to learn not to do. And then in one of those games, I timed out because my internet disconnected, and all of a sudden, you know, I didn't lose the game on timeout. By the time internet connected, I only have like 5 seconds, and I lost. Yeah, well, let me put it this way: I don't think anybody will ever learn how not to tilt. But you know, and let's be frank. If you look at Magnus tilts. You know, that's something that, you know, tilting is human. And, you know, I should have I even took a little break after game 5. And you know, but it wasn't enough. You know, this is one of those games that you want to take a 24-hour break after missing this opportunity to win a game against a grandmaster. I'm going to show you this game, which is the last game. This is the best game with black, because it's a demonstration of virtually all games we played. You know, we played 5 games as black. I played 5 games as black, and in all of those games we played various variations of King's Indian. And we contested the Samish variation, and I think I finally found the variation I want to play, which is based on knight c6 and then a6, knight a5 and push b5. I think it was a little bit too optimistic because I only discovered that variation about, you know, a day before, and you know, I didn't really have the proper feel for the position. But here, and this is very interesting, you know, this is normal King's Indian defense. It's worth noting that when I was growing up, you know, when I was a teenager studying chess, bishop d3 was considered to be, you know, a move one shouldn't play as white as King's Indian, because whatever one does, after you have this, pawn structure with e4, d5, and c4, this knight is kind of boxed in, and blah blah blah, that its position is on e2 where it defends defense against black kingside attack, which usually comes with these pawns being pushed and so on and so forth. So that was the logic between, knight in King's Indian belongs on e2. I still remember reading about that in one of the opening manuals. What happened? Yeah, and I would too. And Aman actually described in the stream, and actually he streamed this on the Brown channel, and you can listen. I'm gonna post the VOD on both our channels, or both my channel, which with his commentary on YouTube actually later tonight. The logic is that after bishop d3, if any of the knights come on e5 or c5, white can play bishop c2. And then he can develop the knight on e2, and that knight on e2 in this variation is actually better placed than on f3, which stands to reason. I think it's, you will see it, we played basically a similar position more than once. And e5 is a standard move with King's Indian, d5, and I have another admission to make. One of the huge advantages of me preparing for this match was that I found the variation against this early d5 that I'm finally comfortable with, and I actually played it since in a blitz games. It's basically early a5 followed with knight a6. I kind of have a feeling that, this particular setup, and you will see it, and it was repeated in more than one game in the match, is, advantageous for black. And this is, in other words, this is now almost the standard position of, for me in King's Indian, and this is the standard position for this line that Aman played. That I actually haven't experienced this, but anyway, we'll see. Bishop e3, which, bishop g5 is considered better, that's subject to some debate. b6, which solidifies this particular, structure. That basically, in King's Indian, normally white counterplays along the c file, and it pushes b4, c5, and then tries to hit the c7 pawn. I kind of like this. This is a very resilient structure. This bishop patrols these diagonals, and these pawns kind of form a barrier. And that's a very good defensive setup in King's Indian. I actually like this a lot, and I'm gonna play that. I think as my standard, part of my standard repertoire. Anyway, so to cut the long story short, castling and knight h5 is a standard move, followed by f5. Aman was even joking in his stream that, oh yeah, if, this is coming, and here is a rather interesting situation here. Obviously you don't want to allow f4 even after f3, because that's a classical mainline King's Indian with in which blacks attack on the king side. What Aman played, and this for me was a revelation, he took, and then played f4. And this was my first time experience with this position. Computer kind of likes it, in other words, doesn't dislike it terribly. But after e4, it's you end up in another interesting position in which material is balanced and G file is open, which is stuff that normally favors black king's Indian. But white has a standard plan, which is to bring the bishop to d4, and then after the exchange brings the knight, and then knight can get quite annoying. So I only played ever these two games with Aman in this position, so I can't really speak to it. But this is apparently a very fashionable line in 2020. And in the previous games, the decision turned around. These two pawns are potential weaknesses, f4 and f5 for both sides. And I kind of felt that I still have a little bit of an attack, and that these pawns are about as equally weak. And having played this already once, I felt that I can probably play this. And rook f7 is a standard move. Knight d1. In other words, it's kind of you kind of don't want to. You want to defend against g2 and knight, rook on g7 and so on and so forth. So I exchanged the bishops, and then I moved the rook on g7. And for a game 10 of an adoption match, I for once. This is probably too high, but I put this into Lila, and Lila judges this to be minus 125, which is actually the best evaluation I had as black whole match. Why? Well, this bishop. Once this bishop moves, there is, and you will see I actually played a lot of best moves in this position. This bishop is not going anywhere, it's biting granite. This rook is stuck, and on top of it, white doesn't have any open or half-open file that it can develop the rooks. This rook is hitting this pawn on e4, and it's not immediately obvious how white can undermine the pawn chain here. g4 is suicidal. And attacking this pawn is pretty hard to get to, because after something like knight e3, queen f6, then anyway, I would be more than happy to play this position multiple times, and I kind of felt that maybe I'll have a miracle and be able to draw the game 10 or even win it. I judge this position to be a very good. Anyway, yes, exactly. King's bishop is passive, king rook is locked, knight on d1 is kind of not. It's a totally defensive piece. This is a better position for black. It's probably close to winning, but anyway. In another game that we played before, I actually flagged in that game because I spent too much time thinking, and this was a completely unfamiliar position. So yes, knight e3 is the best position, and I played knight g3, which computer doesn't considers queen f6 to be the best, but I like it because this knight is mightily annoying. It also defends this pawn on f5, and it kind of restricts white. I don't regretting playing this move. The contrary, I think that was actually probably the best move, best human move in the position. Yes, knight to knight 6, that's, yeah, I agree with you, like Paramaniac. So, anyway, so rook e1, best move, knight h4, inaccuracy, okay, thank you, Stockfish, chill. Rook f2, queen f2 is best, and then this is considered a mistake because what computer wanted me to play was queen f6 as the question of this rook, and then bring the rook to g8 and play bishop d7. You know, what remained here was, you know, computer wants to play something along the lines, and look at this line. Just I actually want to show this line because it's very interesting to see how computer variations sometimes come into play. So the computer line here is, you know, knight f1, so this is there. Then bishop d7, rook e3, and it appears that, you know, white is gaining a piece, but black has this rather interesting resource in which basically, you know, you get, and you're going to capture the pawn on c4, because, you know, bishop on b3, a4 is actually very disadvantageous. God, what's with me tonight? Disadvantageous for white. I would have played this, and, you know, and let's find something silly along the lines of this. I would play this for a black in a tiffy, because all of a sudden this pawn is weak. This knight really has little to go. This queen is in an interesting situation. This pawn needs to be defended, and I have a rook and a piece and a pawn for a queen. You know, I was judging at the time this position to be better, but that wasn't played. I played queen h8, rook f1, bishop d7, and then Aman decided to exchange pieces. And, you know, okay, queen g3 is the best move, takes, and knight e2. And, you know, here is, again, the grandmaster technique in an endgame comes into play. Anyway, so at this point, I didn't manage to find the proper plan. The proper plan here was to play b5 and kind of activate this bishop. But I really didn't want to allow here g4 because I was needlessly worried that that's gonna, you know, lose me the endgame. So I played e3, which is actually a game loss, almost game losing blunder, because I'm sacrificing this. And obviously after queen f3, I am, you know, in other words, I should have undermined this chain, this pawn chain, you know, before I pushed on e3. And, you know, live and learn. And obviously I'm now at 15 seconds, and I am obviously at this point I'm lost. And that was the end of the end game and end of the match. And, you know, whatever else was played, it really didn't matter. You know, it's not so, you know, this knight is a huge monster. These two pawns are supported with the king. This rook, the black rooks are passive. This knight is a little bit wayward. There is really nothing there to play for, and that was the end of the game. So looking backward, I think I had my chances here. I think e3 was kind of a cute move that backfired. I should have kept calm and played something along the lines of, you know, instead of playing e3, I should have played b5 instead. You know, and in this position, I should have played b5 after rook g1 and b5, and that would have kept the advantages for black. I have to make an admission. I'm still pretty weak when it comes to these pawn pushes and pawn challenges. You know, and this is, if you want, a failure of technique. You're drunk, you're saying playing this. there is a reason why this is an inaccuracy, because if it takes and then knight d4, it's, oh sorry, I think the problem with that move was that this pawn is then weak after rook d1, which is not a threat if you play b5. So that's the difference, because if it takes and then rook d1, this pawn needs to be defended, and if you play b5, white cannot really attack any of the pawns. So that's the difference with it. Yeah, white's queen pawn is a shield. So when all is said and done, I really feel, to summarize again this game, I felt that, after in this King's Indian position, I have reached, I played bishop d4, and, I had a fairly significant advantage all the way to the move 20 against the grandmaster in a played King's Indian in a position that I haven't seen before. I'll consider that a plus here. I obviously need to learn to keep calm and improve my endgame technique to the extent possible. I will never be a grandmaster, but there is some room then for because I basically these three are my best games in the match, and there were a couple of other games in which I had a positional advantage in the middle game, or they were equal. So if I didn't lose those in endgames, objectively this probably could have been a draw, and the other two could have been wins. I had at least another two games that draw was a positive result. So I'm very happy with the game. I am with the way I played. I'm very happy with the end results of the opening struggles, because, for me, finding this a5, bishop a6, bishop c5 motive, and finding that I'm actually comfortable in resulting positions is a huge thing. Finding a way to play about that I actually have a play against Samish that I'm all of a sudden comfortable with. And all said and done, as I said more than once, hey, National Master Dale, it's very good to see you. Welcome to the stream. I am showing my adoption match yesterday against Aman Hambleton, which I lost. But, I was one tactical strike away from winning or drawing the very first game. I think that attack in game number 5 is was a pretty good, very well conducted attack. And, openings, I acquired a couple of strong opening lines that I'll put to good advantage. So when all is said and done, I think this match, from a standpoint of learning the game and practicing the game, has been very very useful to me. And by the way, Drunk Pyro, I have a YouTube channel where I actually post VODs from these. And if you guys give me a follow, I'm actually posting these. I'm gonna actually start posting even more regularly, but most of these VODs from the streams are gonna end up directly on YouTube, so you guys can watch it at your leisure. So you don't need to block time. Obviously, I prefer you to come here and watch, join, and I like you guys participating here. But when all is said and done, this was a good match. It was excellent use of my time, and I, of course, it was asking questions is part of this, and the question here for me is, what is the next step. I have a couple of matches lined up. I have a match against WGM Dina Belenkaya that's coming up this coming Sunday. I still have my lessons with Anna, that's on Wednesdays at 5, and I'm going to continue showing this my best losses as long as you guys find it useful. I find it useful for myself, so and that also stimulates me to analyze these games, and I think learning from losses is the best thing. Hey Art Vega, my friend, it's very good to see you. Art Vega is a dear friend and a fellow streamer. One thing that that's not very well known is that Art Vega and I actually played a pair of games, and I think we split a pair of games in one of those Pro Chess League matches before it became the Province of 2700 Grandmasters. I think I was playing for Armenian Eagles and Art was playing for a Brazilian team, and that was fun. And Art Vega is is a friend of the channel and more than welcome, and he's a VIP in the channel now. So this the song here is, there's not a song command. What we are listening to is the public domain, and Lali is gonna write like this. This was actually a concert from Rock Palace 1979 by Dire Straits. It's been recently put in public domain. It's actually just about to finish, which is perfectly fine for this, appropriate for this stream. As I think most of you know, Dire Straits is my favorite, best rock group of all time. Anyway, so much, of course, thanks, Drank Pyra. I'm going to continue adoption matches. I think they're proving to be very beneficial to my chess. I really do not, obviously I prefer not to get adopted, but I don't mind being adopted if in the process, I get 10 games against people, very strong players who are 600 ELO points ahead of me, like Aman. And as Everettville said, that's the only way to play 10 games. And, I keep abusing this comparison, so I abuse it one more time. Karpov didn't win 5 games in a row, but he was leading 5-0 against Kasparov in their first match in 1985. End result was that Kasparov became a much stronger player because he played these 40+ games against Karpov and learned from a lot in the process, and he became in the process one of the strong candidates for the greatest players of all time. So what I'm saying is losing 10-0 against a stronger position is really good. I'll do my best to stay above adoption from Dina, but as I said, that's really not the primary task. I think I have better chances against Dina than against Aman. Yes, Drunk Pyro, I have gone through Bobby Fischer's my 60 memorable games. There is also a book that's called My 60 Additional Memorable Games. That's also very, very instructive. I have that book on Kindle, and I like Bobby Fischer is a very underestimated and underappreciated teacher. I think that's a very, very good example. And one thing I'm gonna actually tweet at Kasparov one of these days. I would really like for him to write, my Great Successors book, which would be a follow-up to his My Great Predecessors book. But anyway, that's a topic. That's a subject for another discussion. Anyway, Well, this ended up being a little bit shorter stream than expected, but I hope this was useful. I'm looking forward to playing against Dina next Sunday. I'm looking forward to whatever Anna has to throw at me on Wednesday. And I have identified, and I actually wanted to bring this up at the end of the stream. And I wish Kimi Liu was here with us because she was a catalyst. I have a problem with tactics, or if you want, my instantly recognizable library of tactical motifs. So I think there will be maybe even a fourth stream a week in which I'm going to focus on practicing tactics and not practicing like kilometer style in which you basically have as much time as you want, but something that's kind of timed and gives you a limited time to resolve tactics. I don't necessarily like puzzle rushes, and I'm also not very good at them, but that might be a reason to look into those. Hey, Pizza Racer, good morning, thank you, and it's very good to see you. And 3 a.m. I'm honored that you came to join us at 3 a.m. So, and for the record, I can completely relate. I got up at 3 a.m. many times, and normally when I get up at 3 a.m. I look at Mark Esserman. Anyway. So thank you. You were coming at the end of the stream. I was showing 3 games from Aman, and simple facts here. I should be able in 2020 to see that B5, and after whatever was played in the game, to play B5 here. That's such a natural move, but it's a natural move after you see it. There are plenty of missed opportunities in these games and matches, but hopefully one of these days, for the same reason, and I'll see Rook A6 instantaneously, I might be able to see taking the knight on B5 instantaneously. So we'll see. And yes, National Master Day of 3 a.m. chess fix is great. The only problem is that when you get a chess fix, it's hard to go back to bed after 3 a.m. At least that's my experience. But that's yet another topic for another conversation. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for joining us. The Dire Straits have finished their concert. I am gonna let's see whom do you guys want to raid? I don't owe a raid to anyone. So, actually, I think Danya and Chiyu are doing an educational stream. I think Danya is coaching Chiyu, so you guys may find that interesting. So I'm going to send you to Danya. And enjoy. I'll probably join you soon. Thanks, Art Vega. That's very kind of you, and looking forward to seeing you guys next time. I'm looking forward to my next match, and then we'll go from there. Thank you again. Raid is on its way. See you, Dali, and Danya is showing Nimtso to Chiyu. That's going to be very interesting. Sending the raid over. Take care, Pizza Racer. Take care, Lali. Bye, guys.